All right, so today we're joined with Christine and Jasmine again. Christine is the business owner of CBD or no CBD products, right?
NoHiCBD.
There we go. Sorry, and I was excited just to talk about the medicine behind CBD and like what it does for people, because I've been kind of curious about it, because you hear arguments against it that it's like a witch doctor kind of thing, but there's also proven things and a lot of benefits that I've seen from a lot of these CBD products. So just start off, like tell me about yourself. How did you get into this, and just like what's your business model, and what are some of the products you're going through and everything?
Basically, I'm an accountant. I've been an accountant for many years. I have an MBA degree, and I pretty much got fed up. Within a period of 6-7 months, I've established NoHiCBD to what it is right now. And basically, I have 2 online stores, and I'm basically not only selling CBD, but also educating the public on its benefits. And the big hype is the number one thing is it's anti-inflammatory, anti-stress, anti-anxiety, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. So that's where you hear, like, that's where I've definitely seen, because my dad has used CBD for his back pain, and it has helped a lot. But I've also heard people with, especially children who have these type of seizures, and it helps with those kind of things. Do you know anything about that and how it helps?
Well, back January 2018, the FDA approved Epidiolex, which is the synthetic format of CBD. And basically, they approved that for children over the age of 2 with epileptic seizures. And basically what it does is it stops it. However, the big difference is the fact that it's synthetic. It was lab made, it was rat tested, versus a product that's actually grown on earth, used medicinally for holistic purposes, and it also does do the same exact thing. The only difference is that one's approved and one is not.
Yeah. So what do you think is the biggest hurdle right now for CBD going forward?
The biggest one, I'm sorry?
The biggest hurdle, as in what's stopping it from being really a larger industry?
That's a really loaded question. Right now there's a cannabis war, and
what do you mean by cannabis war?
Well, just the war on drugs, right? In general, because it's still a Schedule 1.
I would imagine that, but I also would imagine just within the industry itself, with it exploding, there being an actual, like, almost like a civil war in between who's going to gain the most capital, or like they gain the biggest like share of the market. Like now that it's kind of inching towards like legalization federally.
Well, yeah.
And in Canada too as well.
In 2018, when Epidiolex was approved, then the big Farm Bill was signed by Trump, January 1st, 2019. Now, it's a double-edged sword. The Farming Bill came out. However, it's also pushing all of these little mom-and-pop stores to go ahead and test the products to the nth degree. However, here's the big difference. It's questionable whether or not we can go ahead and continue selling CBD on the local stores and things like that, because now the FDA is going to be cracking down. However, there's some conflicting laws here and there, and again, legally, CBD can be sold. However, it has to contain THC because it is highly regulated at the dispensary level. But here's the other risk that you're running. You're consuming THC, which if you're a nurse, firefighter, cop, you're going to get tested positive. Now, the other thing is you're going to go walk into a dispensary and you're not going to get the knowledge that you would versus someone that's certified in cannabis practitioner kind of thing. There's many ways of looking at this from a positive and a negative standpoint. And you really have to educate yourself and know where you're getting your product from. Is it tested? Is it not tested? Is it clean?
Yeah.
Is it not clean?
So you're saying, right, like in California right now, like your CBD cannot be sold as pure CBD, like it has to contain some form of THC within it? Or are you saying just like...
It is not heavily pushed that way. I was challenged enough in Long Beach where an inspector came out and said, this is CBD. And I said, well, it's hemp derived. There is such a misconception saying, oh, well, CBD is derived from hemp, well, it has no THC. It's almost humanly impossible to extract an oil that has 0 THC. It will have something, but it's not going to get tested positive in your bloodstream. And you need a little bit of THC to absorb all of the cannabinoids in the CBD plant. Now, getting back to your question, there's conflicting laws, and there's no restrictions as of yet. But there are a lot of restrictions, but they haven't been in place. Like I said, I was challenged in Long Beach, saying, they were asking me, how did you get licensed here? And I said, well, Health and Wellness by Christina Lena, which is a legitimate company of mine. And they said, well, who gave you the permit? And I said, well, the city did. And they said, well, CBD is no longer, can be sold by anyone here unless you're a dispensary, but then it has to have THC in it. And they said, no CBD is to be sold. I said, well, this is CBD derived from hemp. And that kind of threw in
it's like a kind of like a,
Yeah.
because he wasn't fully informed what is CBD.
What,
And cannabinoids exist in the hemp plant, in the sativa plant, in the indica plant, but in different levels, right? And you're always going to have a little bit of THC, but then the CBD portion is less than 0.3%. It has to be less than 0.3% in order for it to be sold on a shelf.
So, is that here in Los Angeles? Is LB like part of LA County? So that's all LA County that they have that rule.
No, this was right now Long Beach that has that restriction, and the reason is Sacramento is looking at Long Beach as, hey, you have your own city ordinances. What are you producing? What are you doing? And they have all these inspectors in place. Will it continue on outside of Long Beach? I don't know. It's hard to say. But right now there is a lot of confusion. I do believe that a lot of the inspectors are not being heavily educated on the plant, what it does, its uses, and the big confusion in and of itself is, will it get me high?
Right.
And it will not. It will not.
That was for me. That was like the biggest hurdle for to convince my dad to use. Because he's totally, like, our culture is totally against just weed in general. You know, she's smiling right here because she knows what it's like. But they're totally against marijuana, and anything related to that is just the devil or something like that, right? So for me, the biggest thing was I'd like tell him, like, no, dude, look at this, like, what it does for people. Look at the proof. And then finally he came around to it, and he's just been using it ever since, and he still uses it for his knees and his back because he's worked all his life, and it really does help him a lot. I noticed, I think, was it in New York, where they also passed something where local stores couldn't sell
anything edible containing CBD.
So that was like drops in like coffee and stuff that they were
right. Now CBD, marijuana, Schedule 1 drug, and Epidiolex went ahead and went down to Schedule 5. But that's just the synthetic pharmaceutical grade CBD. In New York, they turned around and said, you know what, we can't regulate how much people are consuming. Any consumable CBD product should be taken off the shelf. All the coffee shops and all those places, it was taken off. It's getting to that point where anything that's consumed, and that's what the FDA is saying, should not be sold because, again, it cannot be regulated. But regulated to what? Is there an overdose? No.
Yeah, right.
Have you ever heard of anyone, even with THC, ever flat out died because they overdosed?
No.
It cannot be categorized as the same, I would say. But who am I? I'm only an extra voice in Los Angeles as an advocate of cannabis.
The problem with the stigma behind just marijuana is just that it just goes back so far to even to the Great, not I want to say the Great Depression, maybe when they banned alcohol. And you've seen them switching from alcohol as the worst substance to, okay, now let's target marijuana. And especially from a person of color, that you see that they use that to target people of color, and specifically blacks and brown people. And you're seeing that there's mass incarceration because of the demonization of marijuana. And it goes to even larger problem of systemic racism and just and a wasteful war on drugs that's not working, right? What's your opinion on that? Like, any opinion on that, or the legalization of marijuana?
I as far as racism is concerned, I don't think I have much opinion on that. But the legalization of marijuana is, I just think, pharmaceutically restricted and pushed.
Yeah.
And Marinol, that is the synthetic THC side of marijuana.
Marinol.
That's Marinol. And then there's Epidiolex,
Which
CBD.
is okay.
I just think it's the war on drugs and legalization and a push on money.
Yeah.
Lobbyists. You know, I think there's lobbyists that push for marijuana. Even the big head honchos on CBD, let's just face it, that's something that just evolved around the corner.
Make sure to talk in the mic. Sorry.
There hasn't been enough revenue out there to go against lobbyists supporting CBD, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So again, they're going to win because they have more revenue, they have more funding.
Do you
it's
think
a $1 trillion business?
Do you really think that pharmaceuticals are behind maybe pushing against marijuana legalization?
Well, yeah, don't you think that would be a threat?
I think it could be, but I don't know if it's like the main thing. I still think there's a stigma behind it that's really just keeps it from, because just not too long ago we had Trump's Secretary of State, I forgot his name. Do you know who I'm talking about?
You mean the Attorney General?
Attorney General, there we go.
Jeff Sessions.
Yeah.
But to your point, I think it's that stigma stays alive because people like Jeff Sessions, who have big interest and big money to gain in the pharmaceutical industry, they're backed by them. So of course they're going to continue to push that stigma forward. So I think it's still like the stigma remaining the stigma. It still stems, in my opinion, from, as she was saying, the pharmaceutical companies, because I just think that is the only. If you're thinking as a logical person, you're gonna go with what you have the incentive for, and if this thing is really just something that causes no harm and just generally speaking heals people, there has to be some kind of incentive there for you to vote against it, other than just being a shitty person, which Jeff Sessions is. But that's not here nor there. But yeah, definitely, I would be on the pharmaceutical side, being probably the main thing going against the legalization of weed, just as an outsider looking in. But
well, yeah, I definitely could see that. I just feel like it's just a loaded problem because I'm for legalization of all drugs, to be honest, because I mean I think it would just help like the population in general, you know, if you were to administer it medically, maybe, you know, and in situations where people could use drugs but not abuse it, you know. That's where I'm looking at.
But there's no abuse involved.
Yeah.
We have receptors in our brains.
Yeah.
And we saturate those, we stop getting high. Do you ever hear the expression pothead? Okay, you just keep smoking pot, but you don't get high because your receptors are
you get used.
Saturated.
Yeah.
So that is mother's nature's way of saying, you had enough. Stop. And then go back, give it a break for about a week and a half, go back and you'll get high as a kite again.
Yeah.
But that is, again, mother's nature's way of telling you you're getting too high. Another thing I wanted to point out was the fact that Dama, big mother in Chinese, is the mother of all plants. She heals. And she actually addresses so many ailments than any other plant on the face of the planet. And that's a huge thing. When you have something that actually cures, people don't want it around because even before the stigma became a thing, it was marijuana was always seen as something that was like medical, like way before any of this war on drugs started. So I mean, for me, I'm just all for it, you know, everything. But it's just crazy that this is what the United States wastes money on.
What's the number one thing people come to you for CBD for?
Pain.
Pain? Any specific kind of pain?
Rheumatoid arthritis.
I'm not a scientist or anything.
Arthritis, basically inflammations in your joints.
Oh, okay.
There something else, depression.
How does it help with that? Depression?
It calms you down, and it's euphoric in a way. It just takes the edge off. It lowers your anxiety, your stress. It helps you focus. And usually anxiety leading to depression and things like that. It's your mind overthinking. So it just takes you down a few notches so you can look at life from a different perspective.
That sounds like a psychedelic or something, like psilocybin or something.
Well, the you don't really notice these differences.
So it's your state is not unchanged, but it's just like what, like a cigarette drag, like taking a drag of a cigarette. What that you compare to?
Kind of idles you out a little bit.
Well, actually, no, because nicotine at that point would make your heart race. CBD doesn't do that unless it has THC.
Yeah.
Okay, this is why someone with high blood pressure would not take CBD with THC, because as it's relaxing you, a few minutes later it's going to make your heart race and then increase your blood pressure. Right. But overall, CBD is very, very good for blood pressure.
What's I've been hearing like a lot of people more recently talk about how like THC, and I mean, I don't know if CBD is a part of it too, but that like it can trigger like almost like a schizophrenic state in people. Like I think like there's no research coming out about that. Like what's your opinion on all that?
People with schizophrenia should not take marijuana with THC. So marijuana has THC, so I would recommend CBD, 0 THC, because THC is the psychoactive part of the plant. So it triggers your mind, and it's great for sleeping, and it's great for pain. CBD will treat your body systemically to help it heal.
Yeah, that's what I hear that argument, and I also hear the argument of how it affects children. But that's like, obvious. You shouldn't do drugs if you're underage or your brain's still developing. But those are really the only two arguments I ever hear from like the argument that's backed up. But it seems like the positives just completely outweigh the negatives. Those two negatives, at least those are the negatives that I know of. I don't know if there are any more. We need to do more studies and all that, of course. But I mean, it seems like the
if we were to just compare it to like the shit that's already legal, like if we were to just do a side by side analysis of the pros and cons of weed and the pros and cons of alcohol, like I feel like if the ratio isn't the same, then that's the way that we should fucking go about legalizing it. Like, yo, this shit is obviously way healthier than this, and I ain't saying we gotta get rid of this, but I'm just saying like if this is fine, why isn't this?
I personally think that alcohol is harsher on your body. I
think most scientists would say the same.
I think everyone would say the same. Well, anyone that knows any better, but it's really like I think Jasmine knows the most about this. But yeah. So how do you think we should go about towards legalization or anything like that?
I don't know. Maybe get testings in place for those companies that are established. Have second, third, fourth, maybe even fifth party testing. Yeah. Not just one testing, and get them out there to help the public heal. And because making something like this illegal would just it's just wrong. No one should go to jail for a plant, right?
Yeah.
No one should get incarcerated for trying to heal their bodies. This is our right.
What's like the relationship or the culture between people in the CBD marijuana industry or just the CBD industry by itself, and with like law enforcement and like local government? Like, is there always like some form of tension there, or is it sort of like everyone's just doing their job? Or like, because I remember seeing documentaries, but this is more back in the earlier days of legalization in California, where like SWAT teams would just like bully like dispensaries basically until finally just like ditching town. But I don't know how that culture would be now.
It's still pretty much the same. Yeah. If you're not licensed and you're running a dispensary, and after your notice you haven't really shut down your premise and gone to court or something like that, they come in. Anyone in there is going to be handcuffed. I was a witness of it. I was at a medical dispensary on the second floor, and then there was a situation on the first floor. They completely demolished the place. They had kids even working there, teenagers. They were handcuffed as well. Damn. And whatever they found, they confiscated and took. So
that's all inventory.
Yes.
That's crazy. That's a business they destroyed.
And they completely demolish.
That's crazy. So what do you think about how because did you hear that the industry of marijuana is the largest growing industry in the U.S. right now?
Mm-hmm.
How's the competition look right now that you're starting to see it really develop? You're starting to see other dispensaries and other people selling these CBD products.
I'm for the promotion of anyone trying to get it into the business to go ahead and do it, but do it the right way. Make sure that you're selling something that's reputable. Make sure that you're selling something that's actually going to help someone. And what you're advertising is what's actually inside that bottle. A lot of companies right now, they're putting so much forth money on the marketing aspect of the merchandise. And when maybe the content might not be there, and then that drives also the price. So really look at your labeling, do your own research, and don't be afraid to ask for certificate of analysis. And, some people do happen to pay for those COAs. So you really don't know what you're getting sometimes.
That's what I've heard. Part of the whole CBD thing was that that in New York they were saying that the products that they were selling to people wasn't really enough to actually do anything. Right. Yeah. Is that part of like what's wrong with the business or what's wrong with the industry, that these companies are going forward with products that just really aren't beneficial or something?
People jumping in on the financial wagon of this industry and not really stepping up to the plate as far as integrity is concerned in the product are really making us look bad in front of the Fed's eyes. Because this is only going to push the FDA even further to set down stringent laws. And people need to stop doing that kind of thing.
There's also like the other way around, like as the industry expands, like do you fear any disparity between like big money interests, like corporations running the industry versus like mom and pop shops running the industry? Like do you fear like that disparity growing?
Oh, absolutely. I buy from big companies right now. One of my gummies companies, I buy a lot from them. And it's so much easier for them to go ahead and change labeling. They might substantiate behind a product saying this is X, Y, and Z, and then later discover that wasn't so much the case. And then me being the representative of that company saying, it's really not my folks, it's not my fault. This is the labeling that took place, and I have no control over it. So the customer demand is what would drive me to go ahead and represent a product like this. But this is just an example of what I just recently experienced, but not much related to the question you just asked.
No, but I can still imagine.
But along those lines.
Yeah, it paints a picture of like how it's kind of going about. Do you think there's a problem with the bigger corporations kind of putting their foot in the door, I guess?
Well, one big thing is the federal governments. They went ahead and are seizing all accounts in 45 days. And this is effective very, very soon.
Wait, what do you mean by that?
November 15th, 2018, I received a letter, an email, and a phone call from one of the largest banks in all U.S., and it was basically U.S. Bank, that said, hey, we are allowing people like you to open up a bank and go ahead and accept payments for CBD. Well, just about a week ago, I received another letter saying, we're closing your account in 45 days. The federal government is not supporting our bank because the transactions are based on CBD.
So this is here in California and where it's already legal? This is nationwide.
Nationwide.
See, that's the problem.
After Trump signed the bill on saying hemp is completely federally legal. Now here's a bank that my broker had over 450 people. He had to call them up and saying, we're going to shut you down in 45 days. Now, guess what? And this is real news. You swipe your credit card, it's going to Europe because Europe banks are the only ones that are taking CBD money.
Damn.
Right now.
So that's just like...
And I have to pay double the fees. So my products, the prices are going to go up anywhere between 5 to 7%.
Damn.
Yeah.
And that's also like literally money taken right out of the economy. Like literally all that, like, straight to Europe.
The bank that I will be dealing with is London. So if you think you're going to a dispensary and your credit card's not leaving the U.S., you're 100% not correct.
That's the problem with government overreach. That's the argument against regulation when it comes to the new industry. But unfortunately, I don't think there's much that we can do to actually kind of challenge that until marijuana is legalized, right? Because it's still a substance one federally, right? And that's it's always been looming over there, like the threat that the federal government could just kind of enforce the ban. But it's crazy that it's happening right now when it's like I feel we're so close to just kind of just having it legal already.
Well, here's another problem that we're facing. I mean, the growers are taxing the marketers, the marketing are taxing the dispensaries. So, and the dispensaries are taxing your regular sales tax and then the excise tax. So you're paying about 30% to purchase anything at a dispensary. It's the taxes. They're taxing the crap out of it. And anyone that's growing, selling the right way is not making much money.
So it kind of either forces you, not you specifically, but forces someone in the industry, well, many people in the industry, to either just barely scrape by or
operate down under.
Yeah. And then what it does, it creates basically it's almost like entrapment in a sense. And then on top of that, it slows down the industry because it limits competition and then therefore limiting progression. And then at the end of the day, it's really just the people who need it who end up hurting the most, because they either have to pay more or go to like a sketchier source. And then people like you who are just trying to make a decent living off of it, like, have to succumb because these big corporations are already rich just want to get richer. And so it's just it's a bleak picture when the government gets involved in certain things that will obviously benefit small business and people of color.
So why do you think that they're doing this now after all this time? They're enforcing the freezing of banks and all that.
I honestly don't know. I think either get it back to it being illegal or just really choking those little mom and pops out there so they stop. Yeah,
that's what I was thinking, because the large tax, and because these corporations that are already large enough they could afford it. They don't, they don't. It's not going to affect them that much. But when it comes to smaller businesses, it's going to hurt. And I think the smaller businesses it's just going to, at the end, it's going to stagnate that economy.
I can't advertise publicly. I can't say, hey, Facebook, hey, Instagram, go ahead and publicly advertise for me. I can't even run a campaign. Because no, we will not promote a CBD product. I've gotten shut down from PayPal, eBay, Etsy. If I could just name a ridiculous amount of companies that have shut me down because they don't want and what they call an illegal substance on their website.
I did not know about that. That is crazy that's happening.
Imagine if U.S. Bank was able to get pressure from the government to stop. I could imagine these companies, they don't
want to take the risk
at a weaker point. It really is just like the government fighting
illegal paraphernalia, they call it.
Sounds very dangerous.
Even when it was my buddy's brother was a cop, when it was illegal, he used to tell me that his brother, if he saw someone smoking, he was like, it's not even worth just stop him. He's like, I would just go about my day and just keep people just don't care. And then the support for it is just now I think it's at 70% for legalization. Do you know the number? No? Well,
I don't know.
But the public support is there. People are ready for this. It's time.
Well, you know what? And I just think they declared, what was it, Atlanta, Georgia, not enough cops to go around. So if someone has possession, they leave them alone. It's just not that much law enforcement. Yeah. Well, you know what? That should be across the board.
Yeah.
Literally.
My God. And it's. I mean, that's crazy. That I did not know that.
Yeah. Well, I think a big part of any criminal justice reform conversation should be like to either like just expunge any sentences for like lower level possession charges or whatever, like anything like that, like for anything that has to do with weed, first of all, like clean sheet. Fucking cocaine, you need a little cocaine sometimes. All right, fuck it, man. Like if you're an addict, you're not a criminal. You know, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, the problem with that is that if you put addicts into prison, is that they're not getting the help they need. Addiction really is a problem. It's especially with the opioid crisis we're having now. It's like people are getting addicted off prescribed drugs that are supposed to help them, and it's like products like CBD and marijuana aren't there to, which are this obviously the safer alternative, aren't there to, you know.
CBD does help with the opioid addiction. It does help with that. It also helps with tobacco addiction, alcohol addiction. It helps with all of that.
So how would it like if someone was addicted to it to a substance, how would like one of your products help?
Well, I have capsules that directly affect that or directly help that ailment. And there's other herbs that are combined with that substance, and taking them daily, it helps. It helps. But you have anything holistic, you have to continue taking it. It's just
that's the hard part. Yeah, that's the problem. Yeah, and the problem back to just trying to attack these addicts. I don't know. I agree with Andy. I think we really should, if marijuana is legalized, we should really just let all those people free that were just, wrongly convicted. If I think so.
No, definitely. But I mean, at the same, like there's I feel like just it's interesting how important the marijuana industry has become in the greater conversation of criminal reform. Because I feel like it's right now it's one of the things that's affecting a lot of people, and mostly because the government has made it a point to literally start a war against it. So I guess my point was just like any type of criminal justice reform conversation 1000% has to have like the marijuana argument pretty much, if not the first, the second point. You know, like I don't know where else you would start as far as like what incarcerates the most amount of people, particularly like if you're selling weed, you're not going to become a kingpin either. You're probably just trying to get by just for the month, you know? Like it's not the biggest profit margins. But yeah, Jasmine, for you as an athlete, how would you say like CBD is like able to enhance kind of like your day-to-day routine?
Talking to the mic.
The products that I have right now, which is the oil, I take it right before or after my training, and it does help me relax. I do have tightness in my shoulder. I do have like owies here and there.
Right.
It takes it away like within the first half an hour.
So like even like if you take it before training, like it doesn't take you off your game or anything at all.
Exactly.
That's
and that's all anti-inflammatory too, for like the reasons you're using it for, like.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
But yes, her gummies. Sleep is very important to me. I do have trouble. I told you guys I have trouble.
Yeah.
So that's really, it plays a big part in my training. That helps. Teas for tea. Yeah, the CBD tea. It also relaxes my muscles so much. Other than that, I know there's other products. I know a couple athletes that use like a CBD spray for their muscles. They use creams. It's just a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
For, athletes right now. It's crazy.
Actually, today I was just like watching an interview with Kamaru Usman, the guy who beat Tyron Woodley. He was saying that he uses CBD products regularly for his
Tyron uses it too.
Yeah, Tyron too. Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, like you're seeing, it's at the professional level now. You're seeing people, world-class athletes, world champions using these products, and it's just crazy how it's come from just completely banned substance to now it's how long is this taken, do you think, like this battle for legalization?
How long has it taken?
Since the inception of the war on drugs, I guess.
It was legal about 2 years ago.
CBD?
Yeah.
The whole Schedule 1 thing for CBD specifically, that's brand new.
So like as soon as they found out some people can make money off of it, they were like, oh, let me get my hands on this. Let me destroy this entire industry so we can rebuild it with big pharma from the bottom up. As as the government as the government likes to do. Yeah.
So who's this gentleman over here? That's like we're speaking to.
This is Ed Cannon.
If you want to come over here, you
Come on,
can.
Ed.
So up until 2 years ago, CBD was legal, and then
Was that at the federal level?
I don't think they paid attention to it at all. They cared about,
THC,
high
people getting high.
THC.
Yeah.
You could import it from Holland
Mm.
a ton.
Hmm.
There's no problem with it. Most countries have no
Be sure
laws
to
for
talk
CBD.
like
It's a new thing.
it's a new thing. So that has never really been the problem. It's just the problem of getting high and the stigma behind that. That's like where the hurdle begins, because like she said, that if CBD products have some form of THC, then it's like now they're looking at like, nope, we can't sell this. You can't sell this, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of money involved now, and
Yeah.
the funny thing is, the only product that's legal that the FDA recognizes is Big Pharma synthetic, and they say that this product meets their requirements, but they don't actually have any requirements as yet. That's what's coming in.
So what's the difference? How do you get to that synthetic level, and why can't these smaller businesses get to that
how is
level?
synthetic weed even made? It doesn't even sound.
I have no idea.
In a lab,
Why?
and they test them on
Sounds
rats.
disgusting. What's the okay, so CBD, I feel like it's this how can I explain, like whenever there's like something that goes extremely wrong or like extremely to the left, there's always something that's gonna go extremely to the right? So like right now everyone's on opiates. There's like obviously an epidemic going on where America's all fucked up on it. I think eventually people are gonna get sick of fucking being zanned out all the time, and
You would think.
I mean,
Oh, they won't.
but I would assume that the reaction to America being on opiates, like if an addict would want to stop being an addict, probably want to start doing more healthier things. CBD and THC seem like the natural progression to getting out from an opiates addiction. So as legalization inches closer and bigger corporations get involved, I do see that like becoming almost like a vacuum. Once like the opiate problem starts alleviating, things start being people start being directed more towards THC and CBD. But I only see that really like happening, that funnel happening, if big corporations are involved. Like I don't see like I wouldn't be able to imagine like some sort of grassroots mom and pop movement being created across the country for everyone to just start smoking weed. I would assume like in this kind of country, like we need big corporations to push that kind of propaganda.
Yeah, I mean, they have the funding to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
And, the lobbying power. That's how there's one product that's accepted by the FDA that has no standard yet.
Right.
And how does that work?
Right.
So, yeah, it's back end deals and
What are the
big money packs and so on and so forth.
what are the biggest pros and cons with growth of the marijuana industry and of the CBD industry?
Pros and cons for growth.
Yeah, like what good and what bad has come with like the new growth that the industry has seen?
The conflicting regulations and laws. That's one of the big hurdles, I think. For example, it's legal in California for medicinal and recreational. It's
Right.
legal in Oregon for medicinal and recreational, but you're not allowed to cross the state line.
Yeah.
You can do that with a Tylenol,
Right.
but you can't do it with a joint.
Yeah, I could agree with you there that I think that there are laws that are just very outdated, and how you said that.
Overregulated.
Yeah, overregulated.
I think there's overregulation in areas where it doesn't need to be, and no regulation in areas where it should be.
Yeah, there should be a
totally.
balance.
Yeah.
Yeah, with all things maybe. But yeah, man, that's the tricky part, is the whole that it's still the Schedule 1 substance that's banned. That's the the tricky area, right? Where it's just interfering with just the industry.
Right. Well, the Schedule 1, I mean, you have to remember how it got to be Schedule 1, which
Right.
was also about money.
Yeah.
The
Was it-
hemp industry was disruptive to the lumber industry.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Was this right after? I heard this was right after Prohibition, right? That this was like at least federally was Harry. What's his name? Harry Kissinger.
Henry Kissinger. It was actually before him. It was back in the. I'm blanking on the name of the movie. Reefer Madness.
Mm.
It was a film. Reefer Madness.
Mhm.
It scared the hell out of the whole country.
Really?
including Congress.
Oh.
Illegal. It was made illegal as a direct result of this film being made.
Really?
And the film was produced by, if I remember right, it was produced by a bunch of lumber barons.
Damn.
Because hemp was a competing product to lumber pulp and paper, and you know, it was made. The biggest buyer of hemp back then was the U.S. government. All the uniforms and rope.
Yeah, hemp.
The entire military was made from hemp.
Wow. It's crazy that film was so successful in scaring people that its effects are still very prominent today.
Legendary.
Yeah. If you go and watch it, it's hilarious. It's hilarious. It's so over the top, but it's the hell out of everybody.
So I think maybe the bigger hurdle is just maybe misinformation then, if that's the case, because people just don't know what these products could be used for.
Misinformation, but it was deliberate misinformation.
Yes.
It was
Yeah.
propaganda.
I mean, Nixon was targeting hippies and black people. He told the
initial war on drugs.
Yeah.
Started with Nixon. Yeah.
just to target specific groups of people.
To target and also misdirection.
Mhm.
Look at this over here. Don't pay attention.
Don't
to
put
that over there.
to Vietnam now.
You know, so it was something to throw into the news cycle, and that's a tactic they still use today.
Yeah, that is crazy.
I mean, I think legalization of marijuana is going to be just the same as abortion. It's just always going to be something that people are going to be fighting about, just because it's based off, like, one, a lot of misinformation, and two, a lot of ideologies that don't necessarily land on logic, you know? So I think there's just too many open interpretations as to what is right and what is wrong. So I think, I mean, as long as religion exists, we're probably going to be arguing about the same thing.
I think
I think
you're
any-
right to a degree,
Any
but,
ideology.
but there's too much money here. There's a lot more money.
That's
in
the-
marijuana
Do
than
you
there is abortion.
so do you think there'll be
That's
But
true.
I agree with you.
Yeah,
It will be
yeah.
an issue, but the money.
the money,
Yeah.
the money will eventually
It's very
make
tempting to the government.
So right now, I guess it's only a fight as far as to who gets to keep the gains,
It's
the
a fight for
profits.
tax dollars. It's a fight for tax dollars, licensing, you know, all the ancillary companies and supporting industries that crop up. I mean, lab testing, that's a massive industry now. 3 years ago, there was no industry.
Damn, that's very true.
You know, now every product is going to have to be tested and tested multiple times for every batch, everything. So that's a whole cottage industry based on another industry.
That's like the ideal American economy, right? The growth of an industry and
Right.
different businesses that could fill in the void of, but
But
it's
then-
a fight.
It's also a disruptive industry.
Exactly.
Big
Right.
Pharma does
Big
not
Pharma
like
does not
this.
like it.
Yeah.
They don't like it. You can grow this in your backyard. How much regulation do you really need?
That's true.
That's true.
It's I mean, it's sad too that you're seeing big pharma just kind of not only that, but just disrupt. Like again with the opioid crisis, a lot of doctors have incentive to prescribe these pills because they get paid some way, right, from selling these drugs, right?
They get paid, and they were also, I think they were lied to by Pfizer in particular, with OxyContin.
Pfizer?
Yeah,
It's,
they were OxyContin. They were told, doctors were told specifically that the risk of addiction was minimal.
Yeah, man,
That
it's
was
corporate
the
greed.
marketing. That was the marketing. Oh yes, it's an opioid, but you're not going to get addicted. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't happen. Wrong.
Man, it really is the problem of corporate greed, right? It's just, that's crazy. This is misinformation and the greed of money. Probably the biggest problem with this country. I'd say.
Definitely.
It's
misinformation, corporate power, and just greed. How you said, it's something that runs rampant in a lot of industries. But I guess when something is bubbling this heavy as the marijuana industry is, you get a lot of greedy people in the pot.
It is now, and there's a lot of money associated with it.
Yeah.
But, the marijuana industry has been around for millennia.
Yeah, definitely.
It's been tested for a long time. It works.
Yeah.
it's always going to be there, too.
It's always been there through all of human history. It's always been there.
The argument could be made that the industry was still there when it was legal, but it just wasn't legal. That's the problem.
Oh yeah, I mean
The growth of cartels started just because the U.S. banned marijuana, and they had
other things, yeah.
and they had the option like, oh, we could just sell this to the United States and become these powerful cartels that you see now rampant in Mexico and other parts of the world.
Well, I mean, history repeats itself. The
Right.
same thing happened during alcohol prohibition.
Exactly, with Al Capone.
Al Capone and countless other.
It's just
the mafia was born out of alcohol prohibition.
it's just a cycle, and it's an endless cycle of just wastefulness, I guess, man. But
What do you guys see the next 5 years looking like for the industry? Both of you guys.
I just think it's going to continue to grow. That's it.
I think it's going to continue to grow. It's going to be volatile until the Fed gets their act together, and it's going to be volatile.
Cool.
Because it's a battle. It's going to be a battle against massive private corporations and public corporations, governments with their hand out for the tax till, and mom and pops that have been around for decades, fighting to stay in the business, to stay alive.
Of all the potential 2020 candidates, who does the industry want the most?
That's a good question.
Who would see the most benefits from? Bernie, Kamala, Elizabeth Warren, Tulsi Gabbard, Trump.
I don't know, but Trump went ahead and signed the hemp bill. Farm bill.
But, there's a caveat because they turned around and undid it, 6 weeks later.
Pretty much. I don't know.
I don't know. I think there's a few people that it would be beneficial to the industry. Personally, I like Bernie. I think he's a no-nonsense kind of guy.
Definitely.
He's very level-headed when it comes to things like this.
Mm-hmm.
And he takes an objective opinion rather than the prevailing wind.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. He doesn't pander. He doesn't give out platitudes. He just says it what it is.
So if what he's saying today, it'll be what he's saying 2 years from now.
Oh, you can go back to the 80s and he's been saying the same thing.
Well, he's got a history of sticking to his guns.
100%.
Not that others don't, but he's the first guy that comes to mind.
I kind of feel like Trump would just legalize it just because I don't think he really cares, to be honest.
Well, he doesn't.
I really don't think he cares, right?
I don't think he does either. I think he'll sign whatever is put in front of him for whatever benefit he gets in the next 5 minutes.
The problem is that so many senators have these pharma corporations in their pockets, so it's like they don't have an incentive to really try to legalize this, or private prisons, or any other kind of industry that benefits from the banned substances.
You hit on a good point. The private prison industry does not want this to happen.
Yes, that's
30% of their population.
Yes, because mandatory minimums are just so profitable. I mean, you hear stories of judges getting paid from private prisons to put people in jail. Yeah, keep the cycle. There was a story of some kid who got 10 years for something so like minimal, something so, and later on they found that this judge specifically, I don't know where it was, but, and you know, maybe this is a little anecdotal because I forgot where this story came from, but this judge was receiving monies directly from private prisons to do this, and he actually was arrested and put to trial and everything. So I mean, that's where the justice system kind of came in place, I guess. But
I remember that story.
Right.
I remember hearing about that. I don't remember where it happened, but I do remember hearing that story.
yeah, I know it happened. I just, sorry guys, I don't know I don't know what where the story came from, but it's really, it's terrible. And specifically the ban on marijuana is very profitable, like you said before, and I definitely think there's arguments to be made that private prisons want that law to still be in place.
And they've got quite the political action committee
Right.
to lobby for those things.
Wow.
And expunging records.
Mhm.
Some states are doing it. They're trying to do it. Some are not. Some are increasing penalties, like Indiana.
It really is just whatever side you land on the spectrum, like, to it, because one side will completely believe in the legalization of it, the other side will not.
I don't think that's the case anymore, to be honest. I feel like even the hard right-wingers are starting to just be like, you know what, like, you're starting to see the shift in culture. I don't think it's a point where there's a lot of debate going on. And if I don't really see people just debating about the legalization of marijuana, it's really just like the Congress that's like, well, I'm still getting my paycheck from maybe Big Pharma or these private corporations.
Right.
What do you guys think?
I think the sponsorship of politicians is a big part of it.
Yeah.
The political action committees from multiple industries has a big effect. And there is a cannabis PAC.
Mhm.
I forgot the name of it. But they're not quite as big.
Mm.
Right.
yet.
Yes.
Getting there. It'll even out eventually.
Mhm.
It's going to be volatile.
All right. So, can you guys tell me a little bit about your company and like how, like some of your products and like where you guys are going and where do you guys want to be headed towards?
Well, basically, I have two online websites.
Mhm.
One is NoHiCBD, and the other one is Health and Wellness by Christina Lena.
Mhm.
I am in school at Emperor's College, and I'm going for my PhD in herbal medicine and acupuncture.
Mhm.
And hopefully, one of those sites will convert into that path.
Yeah.
But right now, I'm talking to patients, people with different ailments, and instructing them and guiding them on how CBD is a benefit for them. And CBD can be administered many different ways: smoking it, eating it, consuming it with a drop or a sublingual.
Is there a better way to take it, or is it just all about preference?
It's basically preference and how fast you would like the effects. Smoking it would be the fastest because it goes directly into your bloodstream. Sublingual would be anywhere along the lines of 15 to 20 minutes thereafter. And an edible would take its longest.
Okay. I know what that
But
one.
It sneaks up on you.
Yeah.
but the effects are a lot longer.
Yeah. Okay.
And just again, it is zero psychoactive.
Mhm.
There are other levels where you can take about 98% CBD and 2% THC, and you can maybe take a 1-to-1 or a 3-to-1, et cetera, et cetera.
Is so if you were to get the CBD with THC, is there a difference between those two?
I don't sell the
THC?
CBD with THC because I am not
Yeah.
a dispensary and
Right.
I'm not licensed to that magnitude. However, I do have full spectrum CBD, which that involves the entire plant. So you have a little bit of THC in the plant, in the product.
So you mentioned that you buy some of your product from these larger corporations, but do you make your own, like at I don't know, in a warehouse or something?
I don't, but I have someone that's very close to me that does, and pretty much produces about 70% of everything I sell.
Okay. So, where do you guys do you guys have like a physical location? No, you don't, right? It's all like online, or is it?
It's online currently, but I do attend the vegan street fair.
Yeah, I saw
and
that.
Vegan Sundays. I'm also in Long Beach at the Pike. And just recently I got an invitation to another location, but also the NoHo Farmers Market.
Okay, that's perfect. I live
Yeah.
right down the street from there. So.
And I don't have a store currently, but I am working on that.
Yeah.
It would be located in Santa Clarita probably.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was gonna say that LA rent is a little tough, right?
Yeah, it's pretty expensive.
Yeah, they're raising prices in a lot of places too. All right, I think we're gonna just end it here. Yeah, yeah. I think because we have another show to get to.
Oh boy.
Okay, but thank you guys so much for coming, and I really appreciated your time, and it was very informal or information. Like I got a lot of information, I guess.
Thank
but
you.
yeah, thank you guys for
having us.
coming. Yeah, no problem. All right, guys, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys a lot.